Alright, today we're going to make some bread. And we're going to do it by hand. I have a lot of helpers. And the recipe I'm going to do is my grandfather's recipe. You'll see me looking from a recipe book that my grandfather wrote out. And it'll make, it's either going to make 2 loaves of bread that are this size, or it'll make 3 loaves of bread that are this size, or you can make whatever size you want. But the recipe we're going to make will fill all 3 of these. And we're going to put 3 of them in here. That's the way we seem to like it. We're going to do it in a bowl. So first, let's get some flour. Alright, so first of all, we need to make some flour. And what we're going to use is, first we need to grind the wheat to make whole wheat flour. There's lots of types of wheat you can use. We have mostly hard red wheat, but I hear that hard white wheat works really well as also. This is our wheat grinder, and I got it from my grandfather before or right after he passed away, and he's probably had it longer than I've been alive. It's a magic mill. I've seen them online for $600 or so. There's lots of wheat grinders out there. I can't really tell you which one's the best one, but it sure is nice to grind your own wheat. Makes the bread taste better. So, let's get grinding. Alright, we're all done grinding. Why don't you open that up? The wheat's in the bottom, the flour. We got more than we need, but we use it a lot, so we'll do like one big grind and then use it up within a couple weeks. But you only need about 6 cups, or about 7 cups of flour. That's how much we'll use for our bread recipe. So let's get making some bread. So the first thing we need to do now is we need to get our yeast going. This is the type of yeast that I use. It's I buy it in the brick like this because we use a lot of it, and it stores well. You have to, and then after I open it out of this, we'll put it into one of these and put it in the refrigerator to keep it from activating. But we need to activate it. So what I do is that recipe calls for 3 cups of water, but I won't put all 3 in here because it's going to rise. But I'll put 1 cup of water in here, and the water needs to be hot, or it needs to be warm, but not burning hot. You have to basically, I just do it as hot as the sink will get it, and then that's hot enough. Anything hotter than that, you might kill the yeast when you do it. Alright, here's the yeast we use real fast before I activate it. This is what it looks. This is what we buy. The recipe is 2 cups, or 2 tablespoons of yeast. So what I do is I have my 1 cup of hot water, and I put 2. This looks like we're about there. 2 tablespoons of yeast in there, and then the yeast needs something to eat. That's what gets them growing. And so I usually put brown sugar, just a little bit. I don't really know how much I put in. Maybe a table or a teaspoon. Hopefully I said 2 tablespoons of yeast, not teaspoons. About there. Brown sugar. I like brown sugar. It has a better taste to it. And then after I just stir it in here, using whatever means necessary just to get it stirred up. Remember, you put a cup of water in here, and so you can watch it and it'll get bigger than a cup. It'll start expanding in the water. And if it starts doing that, then you know that it's good. And now you can do everything else. Let's start mixing everything in our bowl. We're going to start out with 3 cups of whole wheat flour. Incidentally, you can use white flour for this recipe. It's not as good, but it works. I like to use a big bowl. You need a lot of room to do later on. You'll see I'll knead it by hand, and when you do that, it's good to do it in a big bowl. If you have a mixing bowl, if you're doing this like in a KitchenAid or a Bosch, then just whatever bowl you have. But if you're doing it by hand, it's good to have a big bowl. So I'm gonna read. So first I put the flour in, and then I put a tablespoon of lecithin or lecithin. I don't know how you or lecithin granules. This is what we're going to be putting in, and that's 1 tablespoon of this. We're going to do 2 tablespoons of gluten. So this is not gluten-free bread. We put more in. And then dough enhancer, 1 tablespoon of dough enhancer. On top of that, we're going to do a tablespoon of salt. And let's get there first. All right, let's let some of these kids start putting stuff in. Here, why don't you do? Well, here, this is our opened one. Put a tablespoon of that. Okay, let's do a tablespoon of that. Actually, you need 2 tablespoons. Here, let him do it. Make them big tablespoons. Or make it bigger. You don't have to have exact. Make it more. With the gluten, it says heaping. There we go. That's heaping. Dump it in. Try not to spill it everywhere. And then here, she gets to do one of these. Just one. That one you want to have is perfect. There you go. That's good. Put it in. Alright, and now all that's left is a third cup of honey or brown sugar. Honey, of course, tastes better. And then a third cup of oil.
I like brown sugar better.
Virgin olive oil is better than any of the other oils, I think, but you can experiment with that one on which one you like. Trick, if you're doing honey, now it's going to taste really well since it's on your head. If you're doing honey, found that if you put the oil, if you use 1 cup, or the third of a cup, so the trick is to put the oil in first, and then it coats the sides of your measuring cup. So there's a third of a cup. So now it's coated with oil. And then when you put the honey in, it falls out easier. It doesn't stick to the sides. That's some nice thick honey.
I don't like honey. Yeah, me too.
Like I said, you can substitute the honey with brown sugar, but it just tastes better.
No, I think that
with
brown
the
sugar
honey
tastes better.
Well, we're not asking for your opinion. She actually won't notice the difference.
I do notice the difference.
And you just get the honey in there. Now, look. Alright, so the last ingredient is salt that we need to get in the bowl here. I can open it. 1 tablespoon of salt.
It's overflowing.
My kids are bringing attention to the yeast. If If you look, it's rising for sure. Remember, we filled it up right here, and now we've got all this activity up here. That means your water is, or your yeast is good. And so what you're going to do is you're going to, you're going to dump it in, and then you have to put 2 more cups of water in there as well. And you want it to be warm also. So you dump that water with all the yeast in there.
Oh, it's all bubbly.
And you fill it back up. I kind of use this to with all the rest of the yeast. So the total amount of water I'm adding is 3 cups. So I did 1 cup first, and then I added 2 cups later. All right. Okay, so what we have is, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to beat all of this together. And this is just making sure all the ingredients are really mixed. Catherine's getting splashed.
It's a swamp.
So you got to make sure you get it all mixed together.
Yeah.
Okay, one thing I didn't talk about is you need a place for your bread to rise, and you want it a warm place. So before we move farther along, I'm going to show you a trick if you have a cold kitchen, like sometimes I do in the wintertime. What I do is I turn my oven to the lowest setting, so low, which is 170. So let's wait till it gets to 170. And then I let it start at pre, and then as soon as it gets to 170, I turn off the oven, and so then it won't get any hotter, and it'll slowly cool down, but it's not too hot. So now let's go on with the bread. Okay, so now that we've mixed all of our ingredients, we need to add more flour. One thing I like to do is, since my kids sometimes are picky about it, or maybe if your family isn't used to eating whole wheat bread all the time, or ever, and this is your first time, you want to mix it with some white flour just to, so that it's not so much of what they're not used to and they won't eat it at all. So sometimes I think that if they're going to eat mostly whole wheat bread, that's better than just white bread. So I'll put 1 cup of white flour, and then I'll put at least 2 more cups of wheat flour. And then we'll start with the major mixing of it. So when you're doing this, if you have a mixer that has a big heavy-duty mixer like a Bosch mixer or a KitchenAid, and it has bread hooks, you can do this. You want to do it. You want it to sit there and mix it with all the flour in it for about 10 minutes to get it really kneaded. And we don't have one, so we're going to do it by hand. All right. So from this stage on, you can do it by hand. You just, in fact, I'll do it at the end by hand, or you can. My mixer has bread hooks. And so I'm going to start off with bread hooks, and then I'm going to move to doing it by hand. But if you don't have something like this that has bread hooks, you just mix it all up by hand, a whole lot. That's why you want a big bowl. And at first it seems like it's not working, but you just keep going. So it starts out looking like it's in little balls if you use a bread hook. And just keep working the flour into the rest of it. So just keep on going. Now it's about the point where
It looks like in my pit.
I'm gonna want to use my hands. This is about as much as the bread hooks can go.
It's a magic.
Alright, so now I'm gonna do it by hand, and I'm gonna probably want to put more flour in this. In fact, I'm going to. Why don't you, Kyler, why don't you get about half of a cup?
See, what's two? What you like?
So this is what you just grab it like this, and yeah, go ahead and put it in. So you want to be careful and not put too much flour in. If you're using a big mixer and to mix this, you want to kind of watch it, and when it starts to sort of not stick to the sides, as soon as it's not sticking to the sides at all, which means you put flour into it until it is almost not sticking to the sides, which is a little hard to judge. But as soon as it starts sticking to the sides, you probably put too much in. So it's a little, as soon as it's completely clean, not touching the sides at all, you probably put too much in it. So you got that middle ground that you're trying to hit. Here, why don't you put a little bit more in? But I always start out with putting 6 cups of flour in, and then putting a little bit at a time. Just put a small amount, like a. Okay, go ahead and put a little bit. Teach you how to put a little bit. So you just keep. You can use 2 hands. I'm just using one to hold the bowl here. But it is nice to have a third hand to put flour in and help you out. But you just keep squishing it around, pushing it, and kneading it. Maybe a little bit more flour before we call it good. Yeah, put it in. There you go, that's good. Just keep putting a little bit at a time until you put a little bit in, and then you wait and you put a little bit more in. So it's still a little sticky, but I think it's about done. If it's not sticky, then it's not gonna be as light. The stickier it is, the lighter it is. And so anyways, I think it's about time to getting them ready to put in the pans. So let me show you how to do that. Alright, if you remember, I warmed the oven up and then I turned off the heat when it hit 170. So now it's just warm, it's not heating. I also put the bread pans in to get them a little warm. And then so that's what I'm doing. I got them warm, and now I'm gonna grease them down. Alright, the way that I grease the pans, I just did it. My camera turned off, but anyways, I take the vegetable shortening, I take a paper towel, and I just wipe it on the surface. Some people like to put flour on top of that. I don't know, I've done that before and it's about the same. So we'll leave it like here, and so now let's put the dough into the pans. Putting it in the pan, it helps if you do a little bit of oil on your hands. Helps the bread so it doesn't stick. So I just do just a little drop, rub it on both hands, and then I'm going to grab this bread dough, smush around a little bit more, and then I'm going to split it into 3 pieces, which is kind of a guess. I don't think there's any really the best way to figure out how to split it into 3. It's easier to split into 2, but let's see if we can get it into 3 equal pieces. I'll grab one piece like this. Do a little more. And then make it kind of long, or about the size of the pan. And I'm going to push it in and I'm going to squish it. And then the last part, it's pretty easy because it's just half. Alright, my wife just corrected me. Said I'm not supposed to squish it in the pan. She rolled it. She doesn't want to be in front of the camera, so she won't do it. But she made that third piece. So the third one's going to turn out better than the other two. Just shows you though that even an idiot can make bread. Okay, so I was going to put them in the oven, but my wife is cooking dinner and she's putting something else in the oven. And so what I'm going to do is put them on the back, since if there's something in the oven, then the heat's going to come up through this back part and warm them up. You can tell this is the one my wife made and these are the two I made. So you can judge which one's better. Obviously my wife's is better. So now we just wait for them to rise. And when they're risen, we put them in an oven for 375 degrees and 45 minutes. Alright, so I have the oven set at 350 and you can see that they're risen. And this is the one, remember, that was my wife's. And obviously it's better than these other two, so hers will turn out better. She's fancier. So let's put it in the oven for 45 minutes. Alright, looks like the time is up. 40 minutes in the oven. And it looks like they're done. So you take them out. And then you're going to, what I do is I just take a butter knife, just kind of go around the edges. For the most part, they don't stick, hopefully, and then I just knock them off in one of these so that they can cool off underneath with airflow that goes all the way around them. Alright, so here they are. They're the one in the front's my wife. The one that my wife did. And there's 3 loaves of bread all ready to cut up. You can let them cool until and then put them in a bag and store them. I know my grandparents used to, they'd eat one right away and then they'd take 2 and they'd put it in the freezer to make it last a little longer. Then when they're ready, they'd take one out and just let it thaw out naturally and then eat it, you know, as a normal loaf of bread would be. And then the other one in the freezer will come out when it's ready. But anyways, there you go. And I hope you enjoyed the video because it was a lot of fun. If you have any questions, just leave it in the comments. Remember that I don't know, I'm not a chef, and so I'm just following what I was taught by my grandparents and my parents and my wife. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks a lot. Bye.